Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again. We have this amazing opportunity to do some apparel for Nik Wallenda when he's doing his tightrope walking in New York Times Square this Sunday on the 23rd. So what we're going to be doing is pressing these pants with a large strip of Easy Silver Reflective, which is a highly reflective material that's usually seen on jogging pants or jogging jackets. So what we're doing is we're basically going to be putting this one strip on one side of the pants and another strip with his logo on it on the other side. So the first thing that we're going to do is really just tape down the area that we're going to be working with as heavily as possible so nothing moves. That's the one big thing when you're working with unique items like pants, like jacket sleeves. You don't want your object to move at all. So we're going to start doing that right now. So now that we have everything really taped down and solidified, there's lots of pieces of magic heat tape here. We're going to move the pant leg to the press. Because this leg is much longer than the actual press itself, we're going to have to be pressing these things in individual segments. So you really, if you're doing this by yourself, I recommend finding a friend to have them help you press. So we're going to move this over to the press now. And I have my press set for 305, and the pressure is going to be about 3 or 4. It's about a medium press. We don't want to overdo it, especially working with such expensive material. You don't want to leave too much of a heat mark on it. Elsewise, it might look a little bit bad for the pants. But we have everything set for 15 seconds, so it's going to do the full press for this segment for 15 seconds. And then while my assistant moves the pant leg, I'm reaching inside and holding down the leg pillow. That helps avoid this giant seam that's in these pants. That way we can get a nice even press without leaving too much of a heat mark. So we're gonna press the next segment for another 15 seconds. Again, when you're working with things like this that are a little bit more uniquely shaped, like tablecloths, you really wanna have, it's really nice to have an extra person to help hold the slack. If it were just me, I would put like a table or something down to catch the slack. Elsewise, you may end up losing part of your project because it will slip due to the weight. Okay. And then your project could be ruined. And when you're getting to areas with pockets in them, especially with pockets that have buttons or any kind of like little knobby thing on them, you want to build up your area so that that knob area isn't getting pressed at the same amount of pressure as everything else. And that's where the leg pillow really comes into fashion. Okay, so now that we have everything pressed, I'm just going to take a shirt and just press down on the area around the pocket just to make sure that I got a good press. So now we're gently going to peel and make sure that this peels off good. So you notice we have a lot of heat tape on here. You do not want this thing to move. So far it has not, especially around seams, which could cause the thing to shift. So that's one side down. Now we're gonna do the other side. Okay, so we've got the first segment down. Now we're gonna work on the next segment, which has the actual Nik Wallenda's official logo on it. So we did before is we heat taped as much of the product as possible to really solidify the transfer onto the pants. So now we're gonna transfer this to the heat press and do the same thing we did before. Press it in segments, slow as you go, just to make sure that everything gets the right amount of pressure and heat. So again, we set our press at 305, and we have the pressure about 3 or 4. And it's really important to hold the slack of the item, especially if it's a unique item, above from falling down on the floor. That prevents tension from forming and pulling the design off of the area where you're doing it. So, pull the design on the pant leg this way to about there. It doesn't matter if you heat press again on the same spot. It's actually, I kind of like it because you're really solidifying the design on the item. Okay. Hold them again. So now Nik Wallenda's logo is really going to get pressed. These pants are slightly different from another pair that we had already pressed. These are athletic fit. So the side seams come a little bit silhouetted, and that is a little bit difficult to press when you're putting a straight design on it, because the silhouette will try to force your eye a little bit. But we had a really good idea to tape this down. What we did was we started at the bottom where we knew that the design would eventually be, and then we worked our way up. And so in so doing, when we were taping everything down, we were able to kind of shift just slightly the transfer onto the pants. That way it kind of had a little bit of a flow with the pants itself, so that the curve wasn't so abrupt that you thought someone looking at it might think, oh, you did it wrong because of the curve. But so like before, I'm just gonna take another cloth. It can be a paper towel if you want, and just kind of tap on the design. So now we're gonna start peeling. And as you're going, you don't want to rip it off really fast. As you're going, you just want to look and make sure that all of the areas that you're peeling have stuck on. If you see any areas that are starting to lift off even a little bit, just put the hot fix tape back down. It's not called hot fix tape, the carrier sheet. Put the carrier sheet back down and press it again. Does it look right? Awesome, that's perfect. And there are a pair of Nik Wallenda's pants that he's gonna wear on live television in New York City when he walks across the New York City Times Square area. Hey again, we're going to be pressing some shirts now for Nik Wallenda's walk when he walks across New York City Times Square. So what we're doing is we're pressing this 100% polyester shirt, and we're going to be pressing a 2-color press to this. Most of his items are going to be just using flat silver reflectol, or silver reflective rather. But because this one is already gray, it's going to be really difficult to see that the design is there. So I went ahead and made a quick outline of the design in some Easy Weed Extra. Definitely want to use extra with this type of material. Normally with polyester you can get away with using like stretch, but because this material is anti-stink and UV resistant and moisture wicking, that means it's going to repel water and sweat, and also vinyl. So you want to use some vinyl that has some extra hold to it. So we're going to do a 2-color press for this one. I've already set up the heat press to be 305. The pressure is going to be about 3 or 4 like before. So the first press is just going to be like 1 or 2 seconds just to get it to tack. And you might notice that when I peeled the transfer off of the sheet, it had a crack in it, and that's just because of peeling. You can still press with these cracks in it because the amount of pressure and heat you're putting in the heat press is just going to wipe away any kind of crack that's here. The ones that you want to avoid is if the transfer is actually folded in on itself or ripped. Don't press those. Unless it's glitter. Glitter is forgiven. So we're going to set this up in kind of the middle of the back. And you notice I'm not putting it all the way up here. There's a collar line that's here. You don't want to press on that because that's actually sitting up a little bit higher than the actual shirt. So if you press it on that, it's going to have this weird wrinkly design to it. So I'm just going to quickly measure it. I don't use rulers. I just do it with my hands. That saves you a lot of time of finding a ruler and then using it. So we're going to give this a couple seconds. Okay. And now I'm just going to make sure that it's pressed down by taking an extra shirt, cloth, whatever, and just giving it a rub down. This way, it puts pressure on the design, and you don't have to put any more heat on it. Easy Weed vinyls like stretch, extra, and even sometimes regular might shrink a little bit. And you don't really want that if you're pressing a 2-color design that's really set to be perfect. So now we're going to just gently peel off the corner. If it's peeling like butter, you've done a good job. If you feel any resistance or snags or you see that it's coming up, just give it another second of pressing. Also, when I peel, I don't rip it off. I like to hold down the fabric so that way it gives me an anchor when I'm peeling the design off. So now that the first color is pressed, we're going to press on the second color, which is actually the Easy Reflective. This stuff is amazing to use because it's so shiny. So we're going to just gently put it on top. And sometimes I get the shirt sticking. It's like staticky. So what you can do to alleviate that is just go ahead and like stick it on things. And that way it kind of gets this static out of its head. So we're going to line that up. And what I did with this design was I actually used a magic trap. So it's a little bit like cheating. I put a general little fill on the reflective part, and then I punched a hole through the black. So that way, even if you're shrinking a little bit, the reflective is still going to sit on top and cover up any space that might appear in the black. So now we're going to press it for the full 15 seconds. And I did do a couple of pre-presses just to test out the pressure and temperature to make sure no heat marks appeared in the object, in the item. So now that it's nice and done, you can peel it. Easy Reflective is really nice because it is actually a hot peel. But still, like before, I'm not ripping it off. I'm just gently peeling it off. And one of the things that I noticed too when I'm peeling is that you can see a little bit of the texture of the shirt popping through the vinyl. That's a good sign. That means that it's adhered properly and has enough pressure to really hang on. So this is the back of the shirt that he's going to be using to walk however many hundreds of feet in the air. I'm not doing that. So now that we've done the back, we're going to get ready to press the sleeves. The sleeve design is actually the exact same design as this. It's just a bit smaller. Okay, so I have the sleeves set up for the next press. So when I did the sleeve setup, I basically put a stool on the ground and then had the shirt being held on the stool. So that way all of your slack is contained in one place. It's not pulling anywhere. It's not warping your design. And then I put a little sleeve pillow underneath the shirt to hide the seam. Because if you press a design right on top of a seam, you're going to get this weird line in your design and you won't be able to take that out. So now I'm going to make sure I have the right way up and turn it upside down and press it in the general center of the shirt. Dropped this piece. And you'll notice that I am using a cover sheet for almost everything I do. So like I did with the back of the shirt, I just gave this shirt, the sleeve, just a couple seconds worth of pressing. And I'm going to take the shirt again and just give that extra little pressure to it just to make sure that the vinyl adhered to the shirt. And then I'm gently going to start peeling. I'm feeling butter. That's a good sign. So now I'm going to put my, my second press on there. So I'm going to just line it up like I did before. And as I said before, this design is done with a magic trap. So there's very little room for error. And we're going to press that for the full 15 seconds. Okay, so this one's done. So we're going to gently peel the sides. Feels like butter. Excellent. And I can see a little bit of that texture poking through, so I know that it's gotten a good press. And then that is what the sleeves look like. So now we're going to go ahead and press the other sleeve, and then we'll be done. So thanks so much for watching these videos about pressing these pants and shirts for Nik Wallenda. Be sure to tune in on ABC to Nik's walk. He's going to be walking again at the New York City Times Square at 8 p.m. on Sunday the 23rd. Great luck to you, Nik.